Hello and a very warm welcome to our special edition, the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, the show where we bring you important unstarred questions asked by the members of the upper house. I'm Kriti Mishra and joining me is my colleague Rajat Kain.
Well, thanks Kriti and thanks to our viewers for watching this edition of Question Hour on Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Rajat, as you know, Question Hour is a very important tool in parliamentary democracy of India as it gives an opportunity to the members of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha to seek answers from the government. There are different types of questions, the start questions, the unstart questions and also the short notice questions. The start questions are those questions of which answers are given orally on the floor of the House.
Well, the other category is the unstart questions, where answers are deemed to be laid on the table of the House at the end of the proceeding of the day.
And in this edition, we bring important unstart questions asked by the members of the upper house in the last session of Parliament or in the last session of the Rajya Sabha. So Rajat, let's begin the show. And the first question in this edition is from member KC Murthy, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. And the member has asked the government whether it has reviewed the information and communication policy and whether developments have been made in making information and communication infrastructure and new technologies accessible to the rural areas of the country, and if so, the details thereof.
Well, replying to query, the ministry said that Bureau of Outreach and Communications, that's a BOC under Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, undertakes communication campaigns on behalf of ministries, departments of the government with regard to the policies and programs. Now, such communication campaigns are designed to keeping in view the requirement conveyed by the client ministries or the departments, budget the campaigns, target audience and so on. Now, while undertaking such communication campaigns, the Bureau of Outreach and Communication uses various media vehicles such as print, electronic, internet website, outdoor publicity, live arts and interpersonal media. For rural areas, specific outreach programs are conducted for dissemination of information relating to various schemes of the government to have greater connect with rural population. Now, release of such campaigns through various media is guided by the policy guidelines for respective media which are available on the website of the concerned department.
In fact, Rajat, member KC Murthy joined us through virtual platform and this is what he had to say on government's response to his query. Take a look. And joining us on the Question Hour show is Rajya Sabha MP, Mr. KC Ramamurthy. Mr. Ramamurthy, welcome to Rajya Sabha Television and thank you so much for joining us through this virtual platform, sir.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sir, normally we interact in Parliament, but this is a different time that we are living in. And we've picked up a question that you asked in the last session of Parliament. That was one of your unstart questions, which was about the review of information and communication policy. Tell us about the relevance of the issue, sir.
Very affirmative answer from the Honourable Minister, telling that there is a clear-cut guideline as to how the various departments in the Government of India can, give their advertisements or make their promotions through the government using the resources at the disposal of the departments. So the DAVP has got a very clear policy and all the advertisements are going through that. And for rural population, I had specifically asked whether there is any specific guidelines or specific programs that you have for the rural population. It was very clear that there is a lot of programs that are in place to educate, to communicate and to inform the rural population.
Right, sir. So what are the suggestions that you have for the government in terms of the information and communication policy?
I personally feel that the communication is the most important activity that any government should engage in. Unless we communicate to our people what exactly are the policies, programs and the benefits of various governmental programs, the programs will remain on paper. It will not reach the common man. It will not reach the persons to whom we are aiming the entire benefit. So I feel there must be very, very clear idea as to what is the role of the Government of India in this and how the state governments will have to pitch in and take their responsibility in communicating and making people understand the various things. A lot of people, the common man doesn't know so many things that are happening in the government. There must be the information department should take the onus and responsibility and see that that is widely communicated in whatever manner possible.
And there was another interesting aspect of your question, and that was whether the government has also reviewed this policy.
Yes, yes. The though there was no specific answer to this, but the indications were very clear that the government has been reviewing these programs, and the DAVP has been regularly monitoring this, and there are committees appointed who will go into these aspects.
And you've also talked about creating a communication infrastructure in the country.
That's what I was mentioning. Unless we create a proper communication infrastructure, I think all our programs and policies will be, somewhere it gets halted. It will not reach the stakeholders. Unless we have that communication to reach the common man. The panchayat level, what should be the communication system? The block level, what should be the communication system? And the district level, what should be the communication system? And the national level, what should be the communication system? So down the line, there should be a very clear flow of information, flow of communication. Then only the probability of the successfulness of the programs will be there.
And how do we utilize the emerging technologies in this area?
Certainly, Kriti, now you have seen how almost everybody are in possession of a smartphone. Even in rural areas, we see it's become a very common feature. The technology has reached the rural level, and we like to only exploit it to the fullest extent. And when they will go to the particular call is that only when they feel the necessity of it. They should know that I like to go to this particular section where I should get information about the government. That information at least we should be able to convey to the people through the local bodies, through the panchayats, through various resources. And I think the government at the state level, the block level, and the local bodies level will have to play a very crucial and important role. Otherwise, we are stuck. Somewhere we are stuck. All the good policies, good programs that are being announced or implemented, sometimes, most of the times, we know that the policy is good, but it might not reach the real beneficiaries.
Right, absolutely. That's a very important point that you're making, sir. But you joined us through virtual platform and shared what you feel about the government's response to your question. Thank you so much for joining us and speaking to Rajya Sabha.
Thank you, Kriti. Thank you very much.
Well, moving on to the next question that was asked by member R. Vaithalingam from Ministry of Home Affairs. The member asked whether it's fact that ITBP personnel deployed will get special cold climate clothing.
Well, the response given by the government is in affirmative, and the government says that the troops of ITBP deployed at an altitude of 11,000 feet and above have been authorized special clothing and mountaineering equipment on 10th of December 2009. Further, on 28th of May 2018, the government has also authorized special clothing and mountaineering equipment to the troops of ITBP deployed at an altitude between 9,000 feet and 11,000 feet as well. As a result, 18.31% of the total postal strength of ITBP is eligible for special clothing and mountaineering equipment. And moving on to the next question that was asked by member N. Gokul Krishnan, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Labour and Employment. And the member has asked the government whether it will consider stringent legal measures to eliminate the practice, since the crime goes on stealthily despite Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act, by exploiting the poverty of the downtrodden.
For replying to this very important query, the ministry said the Government of India stands committed to eliminate child labour across the country. The government has amended Child Labour Prohibition Regulation Act 1986 and enacted Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Amendment Act 2016, which came into force with effect from 1st September 2016. The amended Act inter alia provides for complete prohibition of work or employment of children below 14 years of age in any occupation and process, and prohibition of adolescent in the age group from 14 to 18 in hazardous occupation and processes. The amended Act also provides for stricter punishment for employers for violation of the Act and has made offence as cognizable. As per the provisions contained in the Act, whoever employs any child or permits any child to work in contravention of the provisions shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 6 months but which may extend up to 2 years, or with fine that shall not be less than 20,000 rupee but which may extend to 50,000 rupees, or with both. Now, provided that the parents or guardians of such children shall not be punished unless they permit such child for commercial purposes in contravention of the provision of the said Act. Moving on to the next question that was asked by member MV Rajiv Gowda from Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and member asked whether any measures or plans are to be taken to incentivize investment by companies to increase production from oil fields already producing.
Responding to this query, the government says that it has notified policy framework to promote and incentivize enhanced recovery methods for oil and gas to provide fiscal incentives to adopt enhanced recovery, improved recovery and unconventional hydrocarbon production methods. Under this policy, fiscal incentives are extended in the form of partial waiver of applicable cess, royalty or incremental production. The Government of India has also approved the exploration and licensing policy for enhancing domestic exploration and production of oil and gas on 19th of February 2019, which includes production enhancement scheme for producing nomination fields with more functional freedom to national oil companies for collaboration and private sector participation. Domestic oil and gas producers paid a total amount of approximately 34,300 crore rupees to the government in India as cess, royalty and profit petroleum during the year 2018-19. In addition, total amount of royalty paid to state governments during the period 2018-19 from oil and gas production is approximately 13,400 crore rupees. And moving on to the last question of this edition of the Question Hour show, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Steel, asked by member Vinay P. Sahasrabudhe. And the member has asked the government whether any kind of new and innovative measures have been undertaken by the ministry or its various departments or PSUs and autonomous bodies to improve work culture by bringing more transparency, accountability and also for enhancing results during the last 3 years.
Replying in affirmative, the ministry said the Ministry of Steel implemented measures such as biometric attendance system, e-office modules, procurement through GEM portal, Bhavishya, that is pension sanction and tracking payment system. CPSEs under Ministry of Steel have also adopted various measures to improve transparency and accountability, which include following. Now, MOU, that's Memorandum of Understanding, signed with Indian Iron and Steel Sector Skills Council for implementation of recognizing prior learning in SAIL plants. Employees are covered under the RPL programs. E-procurement systems implemented by SAIL. Revision in procurement contract procedures for incorporating emerging changes in procurement process across SAIL plants and units. Streaming refund of earnest money deposits by SAIL. RINL implemented ERP SAP system in company to bring more efficiency, transparency under different functions of the organization. And RINL implemented enterprise bill tracking system where vendors, stakeholders can upload their bills and track the same, and payments can also be seen online. And lastly, e-auction or reverse e-auction introduced in tendering, selling of certain products by RINL. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching this edition of Question Hour.
Stay safe and take care.